There's an old joke that goes something like this. One guy goes up to another guy and asks him, "Hey, John, how's the wife?" And John responds with, "Compared to what?" And the first time I heard that joke, I basically died laughing. It's hilarious. It's an old joke. It goes back years and years and years. I think it was one economist talking to another economist. I don't even know if it was a joke, but that's the way I took it. And it made a lot of things come clear in my mind. It made a lot of sense. And the reason why I'm opening up with that joke or that comment, or whatever you quip, whatever you want to call it, I don't know, is because the question that I get asked a lot is, what's the best CAD system? What's the worst CAD system? What's my favorite CAD system? What's my least favorite? So on and so forth. Some permutation of that. And I find it kind of hard to answer in a lot of ways because I need more input. Okay, what's my favorite CAD system compared to what? What am I doing with that CAD system? So when I ask the question compared to what, in my mind, it's well, what am I doing with the CAD system? All right, what's my least favorite CAD system compared to what? Well, what am I doing with that CAD system? Etc., ad nauseum, ad astra, ad infinitum. So that goes on. So what I'm going to try to do now is actually try to answer that question. But I'm not going to answer it directly. There's no way for me just to say, this is my favorite, because I like different tools for different reasons, for different things. And I'm going to use what I know of the CAD packages that I've used. Also, this is a big thing, what the data looks like when it's translated out of one package and used in another. And I'm going to include that in as part of the talk because that's something that happens far more common these days than has, I would say, in the past. Because there's just a lot more interoperability and there's a lot more companies using different CAD tools. There's just a lot more CAD tools that are available. So that's going to have to be a part of the discussion. And I think that's a very relevant and important part of the discussion. So with that, I'm going to get into it. Now, before I do get into it, if you would do me a favor, subscribe to the channel. That's really helpful. Hopefully you pick something up in the video that you like or don't like. And if that's the case, please leave a comment. Make it something that is useful, something that we can extrapolate on, maybe answer some questions, maybe talk about something else that I missed in this video in another one. So please, thoughtful comments are very useful and I really do appreciate them. Thank you. Now, let's get into it. So, what's the best CAD system? Okay. Overall, in general, that's a very difficult one to answer because for me, it's either going to be something like 3D Experience or NX. It's going to be one of the two. In general, depending on what you're doing, you may lean a little bit more towards one versus the other, especially with the recent releases of NX and what they've done for the surfacing stuff, as well as some of the other applications that they've added and things that you can do. They've done a lot of work upgrading and updating the design tools as well, just in general. And there are things on the design side that NX does better than Catia does. There are things that Catia does that are better than NX. But in general, if I were going to start a company from the ground up, there are a lot of things to consider. And if cost is one of those considerations, then I would probably have to pick NX because I can still do a local install of NX and across the board for several people without having to put everything onto a cloud somewhere else. Now, if I am not allowed to use a cloud because I'm doing things like military, I guess there's a solution now that Dassault offers. I just don't trust the cloud. This is something that I'm not a huge fan of for a lot of things. I am a huge fan of it in a lot of other ways, but for the stuff that I do, I don't need it. I don't want it. I want to stay away from it. So because of that, that takes my answer and says, well, I would most likely use NX. Now, does that say something bad about 3D Experience? Absolutely not. I've used 3D Experience a lot. In fact, I teach it at Macomb Community College. And It is an exquisite tool. It is extremely powerful, and I absolutely love it. It is a magnificent tool. I can't say enough good things about it, but there are a few things that I absolutely hate about it. One of them is the cost, because it is far more expensive than just about anything else. NX is close, but it is more expensive than other tools, and actually quite considerably more expensive to have something that's relatively on par with the Mach 3 license, the old Mach 3 license. And again, having to have your data on cloud is not something I personally am a fan of. And doing an on-premises install of Innovia is extremely cost prohibitive. It is extremely time consuming. And then there's all that management and maintenance and all the other stuff that comes along with it. So because of that aspect of it, I'm going to say NX. NX is the winner in this case, again, because those tools have matured so much and a lot more is coming. And I'm very happy to see it. And yes, the NX Sketcher is great. For those of you that don't like it, I'm sorry, but I can't go back and use the old one these days. I just can't do it. Now, if we're talking about just raw surfacing, and I had to pick one CAD system to do just pure raw surfacing, you know, some people are going to say, oh, Alias is the best, or ISOM is the best, or Rhino is the best. If we're looking at just pure price point to what a CAD tool can do, it's Rhino. I'm not joking. Rhino for like, I think it's $1,100 now, maybe $1,200. I don't know, a little bit more for a seat of Rhino. And the things that it can do, you would be completely and utterly surprised at how many aircraft their OMLs are designed in Rhino and imported in. That those surfaces are really good. Same thing can be said about some automotive parts. I know some automotives that have Rhino designers sitting on staff because they're really good at Rhino. I also know a lot of boat companies, manufacturers, quite a few, I think almost all of them at some point, start out with Rhino, and they use Rhino until they decide, I'm going to get into another CAD tool. And some places still use Rhino even though they have the other CAD tool, because Rhino produces high quality, excellent quality surfaces for like $1,200, whatever it is. It's dirt cheap for a seat. And it's an easy interface to learn because it's all basically NURBS interface. And then it's, you know, finding users. It's going to be a lot easier to find good Rhino users out there because it's just been around for a very long time, and it's all NURBS based. Just like Alias is NURBS based. And just like ISOM Classic and some of these other tools, I know people are going to yell at me, oh, ISOM Classic's Bezier, it's different than NURBS. Okay, great. I'll give you that. It is different, but enough to make a difference, whatever. You know, I could take a control point in one CAD system and put that control point in the exact same spot in another CAD system. I can have the exact same amount, and I can have the exact same positions, and blah, blah, blah. I can do all of that. Okay? So don't try to sit here and convince me that a tool that's far more expensive than a Rhino is better. Okay, maybe the shaders are better in Alias. But I can tell you with absolute certainty, because I've done it, working with data coming out of Rhino is better than working with data coming out of Alias. Even though I just said, yeah, you can put the control points in, blah, 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 you can. But for some reason, the data coming out of Rhino has given me less issues over the years than the data coming out of Alias. Okay? Now, what a lot of you are probably getting out of this, and I've used Alias, mind you, back when it was like 12 and 13 years ago. But I can tell you with absolute certainty, if I had to pick a tool now to get into and start using, the last one I would use would be Alias. It pays extremely well. I know a lot of people really like it. I don't know why. But if somebody put a gun to my head and said pick one, it would not be Alias. It'd most likely be Rhino or ISOM Classic. All right? Now that's just like the pure NURBS modeling tools. Okay. Now, if we want to include NX or Catia, that's a different story, but pure NURBS modeling tools. I've had less trouble bringing Rhino data into NX and using it. I've had less trouble bringing Rhino data into Catia and using it. And so for me, truthfully, in that case, Rhino's the winner. If we're talking about just pure raw mechanical design, I might look at something like a Solid Edge or a SolidWorks. The reason why is because they're both great tools. The big issue with those tools is, and again, I'm not super familiar with how they manage large CAD, assembly, EBOM, all that stuff, how well they do with that. Now, if you have the proper PDM or PLM system that can help manage that data, but what happens internal and all the stuff that you can do, I know those tools are pretty good. And I do know there are limits. That some people have used them up to those limits and beyond. But if I'm just speaking purely like mechanical design, assemblies, like small assemblies, that kind of thing, it'd probably be something along the lines of a Solid Edge or a SolidWorks. Why? Because they're great tools and they're relatively inexpensive. And as far as translations coming out of Solid Edge or SolidWorks and going into either NX or Catia, the data is great, especially going into NX. Why? Because Solid Edge uses Parasolid technology. SolidWorks uses Parasolid technology. What does NX use? Parasolid technology. So taking that data out of one of those systems and bringing it into NX is basically a one-to-one because you're just basically bringing in that Parasolid. And there are tools and technologies that allow you to have some level of parametric history. So maybe you've designed something inside of SolidWorks and you brought it into NX. Well, it doesn't bring it in as a dead body. You can see there's a little link. There's a special icon. So it'll feed back in. You can set it up, and I've seen these things work. It worked pretty good, where you can feed the data back into an NX. Now, mind you, there are licenses and expenses and PLM systems, Team Center, and stuff like that. And I know there are things that you can do like that as well inside of Catia. But the whole Parasolid thing into NX works exceptionally well. Okay? Now, as far as what interface I like the best. Okay, personally, my favorite interface, hands down, and I know a lot of people that use NX and all these other CAD systems, etc., are going to think I'm nuts. But my absolute favorite interface is Catia, 3D Experience. Why? Because I really like how you can insert bodies. I really like, especially now where everything's just this, like going back into V5 now, sometimes is a little tricky for me because I have to remember to right mouse click and scroll a menu versus now having the little first mouse pick and then the little ribbon pops up and selecting it. So my favorite interface is, it really is, it's 3D Experience. I absolutely love the Catia tree. That tree sings to me more than any other tree that I've used in any other CAD system because I can navigate it faster than any other CAD system. And why is that? Well, if I go into an assembly, I don't have to switch between different navigators. Everything's right there. There's my assembly, all my components. I'm not flip-flopping and switching. Okay, I want to go to this one and this one. Then I have a navigator here. I have a navigator here and another one over here. I've got a screen full of navigators, all that other stuff. I find that irritating. But 3D Experience, that doesn't happen. And another nice thing that 3D Experience offers, or Catia V5 even, is I can open up subtrees. And then, so if there's something in the tree that I want to use over and over again, or various other things that I want to do with these subtrees, I can open up 2 or 3 of these. And that's something that I do very frequently. And I miss that in other CAD systems because those little subtrees will stay open. And then I can go back and reference those little elements that I want because I can take those and put them on a different screen and things of that nature. So if we're talking about like what's the best tree, hands down, in my opinion, 3D Experience, without a doubt. No one does it better than them. Good job, Dassault. And there are other CAD systems. I really didn't use Creo all that much. I did a little bit when it was Wildfire. And then again, when it was as Creo, I used it a little bit. And I know a lot of people that have used Creo. And again, it's one of those where there's a big, faithful base of users. And I understand why. There are some things that Creo does better than other CAD systems. I get it. And it's pretty good price point. That's something to think about for a lot of companies that are getting a start, because it does do a lot of things. Creo does a pretty good job. Now, the issue that I have with Creo is, and I've done this for a long time because I've taken a lot of Creo data and had to bring it into NX and into Catia and experienced the same problematic results. The rounds in Creo sometimes are not the size they're supposed to be. So I've seen them get, if we're talking millimeters, 1/10 of a mil bigger over here, 1/10 of a mil smaller over here. You're measuring the tangent lines where the rounds, they call them rounds, or edge blends in NX or edge fillets in Catia, and holding those between NX and Catia, if it's just a straight up fillet on a complex surface, basically the same. But Creo kind of waffles a little bit. So they have issues with rounds, which to me says, I got to be a little worried about what the CAD system's doing, right? What kind of healing is it going through? What kind of processes internally is it doing to the topology in order to get the right thing on screen? So I know that there are differences there. And again, that to me is problematic. So that's one of the reasons why I'm very keen on not liking Creo that much. Okay, it isn't because Creo is just Creo. No, it's because I've used data out of Creo in NX as well as in Catia. So those are my two testers, and have seen what happens with that data, and it's unreliable. So because of that in my eyes brings my estimation of Creo down a little bit. So if I'm running a 6 mil ball along an edge, is it really truly a 6 mil ball? Well, I've done the measurements of radius on surfaces and blends and fillets and rounds, and have found that Creo does not hold a true radius in some instances, whereas NX and Catia do a much better job of that. Okay, I have no problems taking NX data or going into Catia and Catia back into NX, and I do that a lot, as is apparent based on what you see me doing. So that's what I mean by it's hard to answer the question, what's the best CAD tool? Now, like I said earlier, if I'm going to start a company today, right now, and I had a $100,000 budget or $200,000 budget, and I was going to go buy a couple seats, 2 or 3 seats of software, put a couple designers' butts and chairs right over there, buy the hardware, and get these people working straight away, it'd be NX. Because the price point, it does what it's going to do, especially now. The mechanical side is absolutely brilliant. The surfacing side is absolutely brilliant. And I'm going to get more bang for my buck. But if I could take the tree out of Catia and put that into NX, then I would have the best of both worlds. Because of the way the tree operates and functions and does things, it's the best. In that regard, it's the best. But I don't like my data being stored on a cloud. You know, they say, oh, you can take your data with you anywhere. Yeah, I have one laptop. Or I got one right here. I can put redundant storage on it, which I've done, and make sure my data stays safe. Right there. Not on someone else's computer somewhere else. Which is a monthly expense. Which is, you know, let's say I wanted to transition out of the software. Now I got to do what? Pull all my data down? That's a headache. So, I said the benefits of 3D Experience, there are some amazing tools there, but because of the way things are set up, my option would be for NX, because My NX license is on this machine right here. My machine's right here. And my license is right here. And my data is right here. And if I take my laptop with me, my data is right here with me. It's not on someone else's machine up in some magical place that's called the cloud. For a corporation that has dozens of employees, that works great. But NX can do the same thing with Teamcenter, as is apparent with several of my clients, people that I've worked with over the years and some people that I'm working with right now. My data goes to their Teamcenter install, not on this machine, I have one of their machines here, and it's all on their cloud. So having the ability to take, store, do everything that I want to, I do not have to log into Innovia, or in this case Teamcenter. I don't have to log into anything to get an instance of NX open. And to me, that's worth it. Maybe I just want to spitball something, get some ideas. I don't want to save it back. I just want to do something. Well, I can do that. It's open. Okay? So, again, there are some things that 3D Experience does that are so much better than anyone else. There are some things that NX does that are so much better than anyone else. If I could take the two and combine them, we'd have the best CAD system ever devised, and I don't think it'd ever be beaten, at least for quite a long time. But that's not the case. That's not going to happen. And as far as like high-end surfacing tools, if I really had to pick one, let's say a NURBS tool, let's say I couldn't pick NX or I couldn't pick Catia, I'd pick Rhino. I'm not joking. I would absolutely pick Rhino. Alias would be the last one that I would select, because with Alias designers, there's a higher price tag. With Rhino designers, good ones, they're going to cost about as much. But I can now afford more seats of Rhino. I could do a lot with Rhino. There's a lot of incredible tools in Rhino. I've seen people work and do and all sorts of stuff. It just gets poo-pooed. Why? Because everyone wants to poo-poo the thing they don't use. Right? Oh, it's crap. Why is it crap? Oh, because you don't know it? Is that why? That's why it's crap. Because you don't know it. You can't use it. You can't operate it. You can't take something and make it in that CAD tool, and because of that, it must be bad. Right? That's that whole, I'm being obtuse, right? I'm just an angry wet hen sitting in the rain refusing to move. That's just the mentality of some of these people. It cracks me up. So, I mean, that's my, I guess the long and short of it. I guess long? Boy, that's long. And I hope that helps. Maybe it'll get people to think a little bit differently about what it is they're doing. Like I said, I just use Fusion 360. If I'm a maker at home, and I was gonna have just a couple of friends come in and give me a hand, heck yeah, I'd load up on Fusion 360 because I can do a lot with it, and it's really inexpensive. And there are some surfacing tools and capability and stuff like that that are within it that are really good as well. Now, I might still get a seat of Rhino. Why? Because Rhino is purpose-built for that. The shaders and all sorts of other stuff that it can do. And as far as CAD systems, the ones that I would not do anything with or go near because of various issues I've experienced either trying to use the CAD system or using the data that's been exported out of that CAD system in some regard are Creo and Alias. Those would be dead last. Now, if I absolutely had to, because I had to, then so be it. But again, these are my preferences, my experiences, what I've seen, what I've done, what I've worked with, and so on. Okay? But that's just me. Again, I'm certain everyone's going to tell me I'm wrong. Great. Please do. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me, I'm just some random bald guy that doesn't know what the hell he's talking about online. I'm good with that too. I'm fine with all of it. But I'm, again, if I were going to start a company and we're going to do some surfacing and do a little machining and maybe 3D printing and a few other things, and we needed some high-end design capabilities, I would go with NX and with the option to install Teamcenter later on. because of costs and things of that associated to it. If I were just going to go raw surfacing, I would opt for Rhino and stay away from, I know there's a lot more people that use Alias, but Rhino is also really popular in a lot of other places, like movie making and things of that nature. It's a great tool. Now, if we go, and I even talked about tools for like STLs, like Blender and all the other stuff. Blender's great, not a huge fan for a lot of reasons when it comes to what we do. I've seen the data that comes out of Blender. Maybe it's the people that are creating the data in Blender, and we're bringing it in and the stuff we're doing with it. It's a magnificent tool for free, really for free. What it can do is absolutely striking. So, how do you say no to that? But if there were a way to not have to use Blender to get what I want, I would avoid that step. But if I had to, I wouldn't be against it. So those are my things. That's what I would pick, and I'm going to stick to it. Thanks. Hope you like what you heard, and if you don't, tell me you don't, and if you did, tell me you did. I really appreciate your eyes. Have a great day.